across fields pockmarked with hooves and boots, stood by a march ditch, proud yet stooped, stump-armed like a rural Venus de Milo, a symbol of hope, carved of simple stone, a conduit for eternal life, a relic of what the martyrs once died for, emblazoned with a date that none can agree on. The prayers that you heard, how many were answered? Of those that practiced their illegal faith, while of the beasts of law and destruction you so evaded. Many say that you kneel and bow towards the ground where many may have once keened. As others say, you look skyward and up towards the moon and the stars that can't always be seen.
We're blessed in County Fermanagh to have a lot of ecclesiastical sites dating from that early Christian period. Sites like Devonish Island, Innismacsaint, White Island with its beautiful figures, and then we have a lot of sort of medieval churches and graveyards. Galloon, Aghadrumsee. But what we have here is described as a red sandstone cross leaning forward in a march ditch bordering two farmlands. And historians are always sort of interested, and rightfully so, in dating such things. But this cross has no designs, no motives, no emblems on it, no relief work, and so therefore it's difficult to date it. The fact that it has no designs on it may point us towards it being a very early Christian cross. Or it may be from a later time. And the reason I say that is because there is a date, albeit sort of scratched on the surface of the cross, which is believed to have been around 1734. Now the last two digits are hard to make out, but it certainly is 17 something. And that may throw us into that period of the penal laws, where basically all religions, bar the Church of England, Church of Ireland, were forbidden in Ireland against the Protestant dissenters, but mainly in Ireland against Roman Catholicism and the culture that went with that. And if you look at the cross itself, it's described as having like stubby arms. And if you've ever seen penal crosses in real, the wooden ones, they tended to have short arms. And that is because a priest could literally put the cross up his tunic of his arm to hide it if somebody came on him unexpectedly. Where we are here, at first view, and this looks like sitting in a landscape on its own, but I believe this is sitting also on a juncture here, literally a crossroads. And so what we have here, we have an ancient trackway that goes up past this cross. And it's believed to have come originally from that ecclesiastical town of Caoineadh, and it snakes its way up through into Slieve Bay. and possibly even onto another well-known ecclesiastical town in County Tyrone of Clogher. And speaking to one of the landowners here, down through the oral tradition, because it is important to point out about this cross here, there is nothing written down about this cross, so it tends to come from that oral tradition. And he said that he believed that this may have been a place where funeral processions stopped, corteges stopped, and that old Irish ancient tradition of keening took place. And keening basically means crying. And that's where women, sometimes professionally, were actually paid to wail, lament and cry over the deceased at wakes and funerals. And so this may have been carried out at this location here before it went on its final way. And in relation to that old tradition of keening, strangely enough, one of probably the only proponents in not just County Fermanagh in Ireland is actually a girl called Rose Connolly from Newtown Butler, who still practices that old style of keening. And she goes under the name Roche, and so check her out. And also, not too far from here, probably 5, maybe 6 minutes walk, is Aghadrumsee Gaelic Club. And around 2008, 2009, there was planning in for a development of a second football pitch. And an archaeologist was sent down, and it's sort of coincidence by accident, because there are a cluster of 5, 6 burnt mounds around this area. And the archaeology department didn't want them burnt mounds disturbed by that development. And what they discovered was, when they were scraping back for that secondary pitch, they discovered post holes, gullies, courseware, pottery, ditches, cereal grains. And it turned out that what they had discovered was, which is actually not only quite unique to County Fermanagh, but even to the island of Ireland, was a late medieval settlement, 16th, 15th century, because they analysed the cereal grains and that they were dating from around 1460 to 15 something. Now, so all of a sudden, this looks like a lone cross sitting in a marsh ditch. But what we then see is the picture starts to develop. You have this old ancient trackway and a crossing point here. You have a medieval, late medieval settlement. If that has any bearing on the cross, it's difficult to say, but it may have, and it may all tie in together. Or this may be a real early Christian cross, then repurposed as a penal cross, as a stopping point for corteges, all of the above, hence the scroll date of 1734. Now, what we don't have here is we don't have the grandeur of Devonish Island. And this cross is described as being crude, but I prefer to use the word simplistic. And maybe simplicity is the way to go. And maybe there's a lesson there. And also, what's intriguing for me about this cross, regardless of its dating, because it's not about its dating, it's about what it represents. And what it represents for me, and what's interesting about it for me, is that there was a strong determination by people in this area, the locals, to maintain and carry out their religious practices. And that is what is significant and important for me about this cross. Drumbrughas, the Ridge of Hospitality, Aghadrumsee, County Fermanagh.